So I've had some questions about shotguns, particularly after the CZ video on the Hammer Classic. And in that video, I mentioned a couple things about how shooting a side by side, particularly one that's styled like an Old English gun, is different than shooting an over under or a trap gun or a skeet gun or anything like that. These are designed as general purpose firearms. They're not particularly great at any one thing, but they're not bad at any of them either. And that shows up a lot in my trap shooting scores on my league. So, what I have found is I started shooting trap again in September. It's now the end of January. February is coming in a couple days. I'm filming this on January 28th. So I've been back in business shooting trap for just under 6 months. Um, in that time, I've gone from a 26-inch side by side that was a budget gun. That was my Stoeger Uplander. I've gone from that and a hit percentage of roughly 40 to 50%, up to now reliably about 70 to 80%. It largely depends on how I'm feeling that day and if I'm in the groove or not. Um, my league is a 50 clay per day league, so I'm averaging about 35 to 40 now that I've gotten better. So one of the things that I hadn't done yet, which I just did today while I was there, and luckily I have some rather knowledgeable people in my gun club who were able to help me out, is I spent some time at a patterning board. Because one of the things I found is everyone else on my league typically shoots improved modified or modified chokes. Some of them even shoot full chokes. And that hasn't been the case for me. I started out like that, and then because I had never done patterning before, I started opening up my chokes. So I've actually been getting my hit percentages and everything. I've been using cylinder bore and improved cylinder for my chokes. And now I know why that seems to have helped me out. And I'm going to explain that here. So before I do, I want to make sure it's very clear to everyone I am not a world champion shooter. What I am going to show you is based on my observations of my own shooting and my own level of expertise. I'm not a master, but I like to think I at least have learned a little bit. I have been doing a lot of shotgun shooting, so I feel like I've at least got terminology down pretty well. So the first thing that I learned about is by doing patterning. I watched a couple videos online for how to, correctly pattern your shotguns. So I went out and I did that, and I'm going to show you two of my patterning targets. Okay, both of them, for those of you that don't have a keen eye for this stuff, it's going to be a little tough to tell the difference. I fired 5 rounds of 7.5 shot onto each of these so I could get a good baseline. I looked at the target in between each shot so I could see even more, and that helped a lot. You guys are just going to be seeing the aftermath. So the problem I've been running into, first off, by shooting a side-by-side, I'm already inherently at a disadvantage on a trap field. You just are. It's part of the whole mystique of shooting a side-by-side. I'm there for fun, not to win, so I'm trying to just get as good as I can with the gun that I choose. So what I did here, okay, from 30 yards, I used my patterning target, and it's probably tough for some of you to see some of the hits, but I'm shooting, when I first tried it, I was about 1.5 to 2 feet low from the target. And what that means is, when my pattern was coming through, the top of my shot cone was just barely hitting the clay. Okay? And what happened there is that explains to me why opening up my choke helped my hit percentage so quickly. And it's basically I had been shooting low the entire time and I didn't know it. So where with a tighter constriction, I was just barely hitting the target and having more misses. When I opened up that pattern by opening up the cylinder, that helped me reach a little bit higher in my pattern placement, which improved my hit percentage. Unfortunately, that can only take you so far. That just puts a band-aid on the problem. Okay, the real problem is I was shooting low. I was shooting about 1.5 feet low. Once I saw that on this target, I started changing my chin weld and how I was aligning my shotgun with the target. By doing that, I took another 5 shots and I raised my pattern noticeably. I raised my pattern by about a foot, I'd say. I changed my sight picture. I changed how I had my weld on my chin. Okay, I started out with my stock being somewhere right around here, and I brought it down now so my chin is almost resting on top of the comb. I brought it down about 1/4 to 1/2 inch, and that raised it by about a foot, which, based on everything I've been reading, sounds correct. What I've been seeing is that about 1/4 inch of comb height raises your pattern by roughly 4 inches at, I think that it was 25 yards. So at 30, it the math worked out. So that was the first thing that I learned, and that explained why I was shooting low. The other problem that I had, or at least I suspect I haven't tested the result yet. I'm going to do this, and I'll do a follow-up in a couple days. I have been doing something called floating the target. I didn't know that I was doing this because one of the problems I had is I'm totally, with minor exceptions, I'm totally self-taught when it comes to shooting shotgun. I took some lessons when I was about 18, and I did skeet, so it was a little bit different. But I never really got a lesson on what your sight picture should look like on a shotgun. You know, how much rib should you see? How do you line up the beads? Where do you place them? All that sort of stuff. I knew nothing. I've been shooting just by looking and pointing, and that's it. So my rough sight picture that I have had to use with the side-by-sides to get hits looks like this. Okay. Because I am floating the target, okay, which basically means I am keeping a large amount of space around the target so that I can see it move. Part of that is what's causing me to hit low. The other thing is, as a result of floating the target, I'm having to see a lot of rib, and I mean a lot. So that makes it less precise. So this is the next theory that I'm going to be checking out, is I'm probably floating the target too much. There are other people who, it seems, they actually put the bead and they have what's called the figure 8 hold, where you've got your front bead just underneath the target, something like this. And that's what you would normally think of. But I prefer, I guess, more dynamic type of shooting. So I've got all this air here between the shotgun and the target. And that's why I'm shooting low. So what I'm going to do, I was at my league and I went to my league today and I shot my rounds. Tomorrow is another league day. I'm going to go up and shoot a couple practice rounds and see if changing how far I'm holding it below the target will help my problem. All of this I learned just by doing a quick Google search and talking to some experienced shooters at my range. Pattern your shotgun, learn where it shoots. By doing this, I can start to constrict my group more, which will give me more range. And once I've got a little practice in, I'm betting I'm going to get a higher hit percentage. So what this has helped me do is I've gone from using a cylinder bore and improved cylinder chokes to improved modified and modified chokes. I'm going to try that out tomorrow, and I'll do an update video same day. So be ready for another one to come out. So that information all put together, I'm going to be able to think about my shot placement more. I'm going to be able to adjust myself better, and I'm going to spend some more time at the patterning board. So for those of you that are shotgunners, I know one thing that you'll hear a lot of is people don't want to pattern their guns. They don't want to take the time to do it. They just want to shoot clays. If you really want to get good at clays, pattern your gun, know where it's going to hit. Okay, what I've read online is that for the average shooter, you should have about 60% of your pattern at the top edge of the target. If you're really good, you might even go up to about 70%. I'm going to aim for that 60%, and we'll see how I do. I'm going to do that by not leaving so much space between my front bead and the target, and we'll see how it goes from there. Pattern your shotgun. Don't ignore it. It's going to make you better. And with that quick little Google search, I bet we're going to see some major improvements. I'm hoping I can get my percentages up from what the experienced gentlemen at the club are telling me. Is I have a lot of shooting potential, but I'm sort of crippling myself by using a side-by-side, which I don't disagree with. I'm very aware of the fact I do not have the ideal gun for shooting trap, but I also believe that you should shoot what you like to shoot and adjust to it. So we'll see how it goes from there. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you in a couple days when I upload the next video.